J.D. Vance is kind of a giant. Still would love to get you on the show, J.D. But he doesn't couch. It's not in his book, as the rumor suggested. What goes on between a man and upholstery is none of my business, but in this case, it just didn't happen. But what is in that book is a much more interesting passage where Vance recalls how at age 8 he thought he might be gay. This really resonated with me because when I was 8, puberty was still a few years off, so I hated girls at 8. They had cooties, and I only wanted to be with boys. Well, that does sound gay.
Trump's presidency is like an open mic night where the world's worst comedian refuses to leave the stage, and Bill Maher just showed up with a spotlight and a sharper tongue than ever. Imagine J.D. Vance trying to play hype man while Trump stumbles through the performance only to get roasted into oblivion by someone who actually knows what timing is. Maher doesn't need a script. Trump supplies material daily, turning every blunder into the setup and every meltdown into the punchline.
Kim Jong-un has state stenographers who follow him everywhere and scribble his genius ideas into their notebooks and applaud. Well, Republicans, that's you now. Republican Congressman Addison McDowell wants to name Dulles Airport after Trump. It'll be like other airports, except the international terminal only has departures.
Bill Maher tears into J.D. Vance as if he's the kid in class desperate to impress the bully, nodding along at every absurd remark, even when it makes no sense. Vance looks less like a senator and more like an unpaid intern fetching water for the world's worst boss. Maher doesn't waste much time on him, though. Vance is just the sidekick in this tragicomic saga. The real target is Trump, who continues to treat the presidency like his personal reality show reboot, except now the stakes are higher and the ratings are worse.
The most surreal part of the whole night was when I got home. I flew back right after the dinner, and I'm in bed watching 60 Minutes from the night before. And there's Trump in one of their stories. See him in a room that looked to me like one of the rooms and places we'd just been in. And he's ranting, "Disgusting, you're a terrible person." And I'm like, who's that guy? He's got 5 kids, and he's out of his fucking mind. And again, it's 2024, and you're still saying that people who don't marry and raise kids are inferior weirdos? Thanks, Phyllis Schlafly. Let me check my beeper to see if 1993...
If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Trump is so obsessed with being seen as a genius that he can't recognize he's actually the punchline. Maher paints him as the guy who thinks tweeting insults counts as legislation and who believes a roaring crowd equals effective governance. Every rally is less a political event and more like an ego buffet where the only item on the menu is applause. Maher mocks how Trump measures success by noise rather than results, mistaking cheers for progress in the same way a karaoke singer mistakes volume for talent.
There's also a bill in Congress to add Trump to Mount Rushmore because, like Washington, he's a patriot. Like Teddy Roosevelt, he's a renegade. And like Abraham Lincoln, he's not really helping the theater scene in Washington, D.C. City centers, not something I really care a lot about, but I do care that an American president doesn't see anything wrong with him personally taking it over, or that his communications director, Stephen Chung, said it was justified because Trump, quote...
When Trump tries to flaunt his so-called business savvy, Maher skewers him with reminders of his long string of bankruptcies and failures. The so-called master dealmaker has a record of leaving investors, contractors, and entire cities worse off, yet somehow he convinces people he's the guy who can save America. Maher likens him to a con artist who keeps selling the same snake oil, and people keep lining up for refills. Trump's economic vision is as flimsy as one of his branded steaks, expensive, tasteless, and gone in a flash.
EVs. 2 years ago, 71% of Republicans said they would not consider buying an electric car. Trump said they were for, quote, radical left fascists, Marxists, and communists. Now he's selling them on the White House lawn.
Maher doesn't stop at Trump's finances. He digs into foreign policy blunders, mocking how Trump struts around the global stage as though international relations were an episode of Celebrity Apprentice. Shaking hands and smiling for cameras isn't diplomacy, but Trump thinks otherwise. Maher highlights how he reduces complex geopolitical issues to photo ops, collecting autographs instead of crafting real alliances. The absurdity becomes glaring. Trump believes that if he looks tough in front of the cameras, the world automatically bends to his will, while behind the scenes, real diplomats scramble to fix the mess.
Republicans dance like Trump now. They name weapons systems after him. They've even dressed like him with the trademark suit and tie. Available exclusively at Banana Republic. Yeah, all these super macho guys eating the ass of another man.
J.D. Vance plays the eager sidekick in this story, standing silently behind Trump like a nodding bobblehead, his political courage evaporating whenever his idol opens his mouth. Maher ridicules the way Vance clings to Trump's coattails, hoping proximity to chaos will somehow make him relevant. In reality, it makes him look like the guy at the office party who laughs too hard at the boss's bad jokes, not realizing everyone else in the room already left. Maher saves his most cutting humor for Trump's relentless need to be worshipped. Every decision is filtered through the question, will people cheer louder for me? The policies vanish into thin air, but the self-congratulation never stops. When Maher dives into Trump's environmental stance, the sarcasm is brutal. Trump treats climate science like it's a personal insult, dismantling protections with the enthusiasm of a pyromaniac at a fireworks stand.
So the biggest threat to America now is not a nuclear-armed Iran or $35 trillion in debt or another leaky lab in China. It's cat ladies. Vance says the country is being run by them. In 2020, he said not having kids makes people more sociopathic and less mentally stable, and the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids. Have you met your running mate?
Maher skewers his fixation on deregulation as progress, pointing out that even coal executives seem embarrassed by the obsession. The president insists pollution equals prosperity, as if smog were the perfume of success. Maher's punchline is clear. Trump's idea of saving the planet is making sure there's enough gold leaf for his golf carts. Healthcare becomes another easy target. Trump insists he has the best plans, but none of them ever materialize. Maher jokes that his health policy is like a magician's disappearing act. Every time you ask for details, the plan vanishes into thin air. Americans are left waiting for a solution that never arrives, while Trump brags about invisible achievements. The spectacle is all smoke and mirrors, and Maher makes it clear the audience deserves more than cheap tricks. On immigration, Trump turns what should be a serious policy debate into a carnival sideshow. The joke writes itself. Instead of leading, Trump cosplays as a castle builder, convinced that stone barriers will hold back the complexities of modern society.
About our new tariff policy, Commissary Ludnick said, "These policies are the most important thing America has ever had." Yeah, take that Emancipation Proclamation in Louisiana. And these bills they've introduced to make Trump's birthday a holiday and put him on currency and Mount Rushmore. This is not what we do.
Maher hammers Trump's media battles with merciless precision. The president spends more energy fighting headlines than addressing the issues behind them. Maher compares it to a quarterback blaming the scoreboard every time he fumbles the ball. The press doesn't invent the chaos, Trump manufactures it daily and then screams about bias when someone reports the obvious. Maher skewers the irony of a man who creates disasters, then cries foul when people notice. The hypocrisy running through Trump's every move is another feast for March. Trump paints himself as the outsider fighting the establishment, even while he sits at the very center of power. He claims to be the champion of the little guy while surrounding himself with billionaires and lobbyists who treat public service like a networking event. With investigations piling up like unpaid bills, the president seems to spend more time worrying about subpoenas than governing. Maher imagines the Oval Office doubling as a law office where attorneys outnumber advisors. The image is hilarious and damning. An administration run less like a government and more like a defendant's waiting room.
Okay, this is a crazy, shallow way to make decisions that we all do too much. A new book by David Zweig called "In of Caution" about the repercussions from keeping the schools closed so long during the pandemic has garnered a lot of attention. And here's the author's takeaway line. The American Academy of Pediatrics were very strongly in favor of getting kids into schools, but as soon as Trump came out in favor of reopening, they completely reversed their...
Carving into Trump's leadership style, Maher emphasizes the allergy to accountability. Nothing is ever his fault. It's always the work of enemies, critics, or even imaginary forces conspiring against him. Maher likens him to a man who trips over his own feet and then sues the floor. The inability to own a mistake becomes a running gag, each denial further proving his fragile ego. When addressing Trump's crisis management, Maher mocks how every emergency turns into another vanity project. Maher also takes aim at Trump's endless recycling of slogans. Instead of governing, he chants phrases like a preacher selling salvation through repetition. Maher notes that repeating a line doesn't make it true, but Trump treats words like magical incantations, hoping they'll transform into policy if shouted enough times. The reality remains the same. Empty promises, no follow-through, and a base that pretends the echo is progress.
And finally, new rule. Someone has to tell me how Americans can keep becoming more alike, but also hate each other more than ever. I was made to think of this recently when it came to my attention that vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance fucks his couch. Oh, I'm sure you heard it too. It was everywhere. One guy wrote it on Twitter, and immediately half the country was all in. Our hate for each other is so intense. We all just immediately believe anything bad about the other side. I mean, don't get me started on, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the dogs, they're coming for the pets, they're eating the dogs.
J.D. Vance gets dragged again for his unwavering devotion, mocked as the eager apprentice who never realized the master he serves is flailing. Maher paints him as the guy polishing brass on the Titanic, convinced it's all part of a winning strategy. His loyalty doesn't come across as strength, it reads like desperation, a reminder that some careers are built entirely on clinging to louder personalities. Maher skewers Trump's obsession with rewriting his own history. Instead of building achievements, he relitigates old battles, bragging about imaginary wins and recycling grievances. Maher compares it to a washed-up athlete replaying tapes of their glory days, ignoring the fact that the current season is a complete disaster. The presidency becomes a nostalgia tour of complaints, with Trump as the aging rock star insisting the crowd still cares. The hypocrisy extends to Trump's claims of toughness. He sells himself as a strong leader, but wilts at the first sign of criticism. Maher imagines the White House as a revolving door, where staffers barely unpack before being replaced. The administration feels less like a team and more like an episode of Survivor, with Trump gleefully voting people off the island.
And finally, new rule. The Republican ticket of Trump and Vance can say what it wants about Mexicans, Muslims, journalists, sharks, windmills, low-flow toilets, the FBI, Brittany Griner, and me. But for the love of God, leave childless cat ladies out of it. While we were off last month, America got to know Donald Trump's new piss boy, Andrew Dice Vance, the VP candidate who has now reopened the question at the very foundation of the Republican Party. Bitch, why...
On education, Maher criticizes Trump's neglect of the issue, mocking how the president sees schools as props for photo ops rather than institutions needing reform. The irony is thick. A leader who can't string coherent thoughts together, positioning himself as a champion of learning. Maher cracks that Trump's real education policy seems to be ensuring everyone else stays as uninformed as he is. Maher digs into Trump's relationship with technology, mocking how he treats social media like a throne room while ignoring actual innovation. He governs through impulsive posts, mistaking rants for policy. Instead of uniting, he exploits conflict, treating unrest as an opportunity for self-promotion. Maher points out how every tense moment becomes another chance for Trump to posture, ignoring the human cost in favor of scoring political points. The joke is grim but biting. A president more interested in starring in the chaos than solving it. Maher mocks Trump's attempts at statesmanship, recalling staged ceremonies where he pretends to be dignified. The image never holds. Within minutes, the facade crumbles into rambling speeches, petty feuds, and bizarre claims.
Remember that debate during the pandemic? On the left, they were saying, Trump and Joe Rogan took it. It must be for animals. Okay, it won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for what it did for humans. But whatever, the point is, it's a drug. It's not a politician. Drugs don't have political parties. Although I do suspect Xanax is a Democrat.
Maher frames it as the worst kind of theater, bad acting with no script, where the audience keeps watching only out of morbid curiosity. The closing barrage from Maher zeroes in on Trump's desperate craving for immortality. He fantasizes about monuments carved in his honor and volumes praising his brilliance, but the record unfolding is far less flattering. Instead of being etched alongside visionaries, his name is etched into the margins of failure, a glaring warning to anyone confusing bluster with governance. Maher makes it clear that classrooms of tomorrow won't analyze Trump as a statesman, they'll dissect him as a prime exhibit in chaos. the ultimate reminder of how incompetence can masquerade as authority until the consequences expose the truth. Maher keeps the heat on Trump, portraying a leader remembered not for progress or vision, but for turning governance into theater, where arrogance overshadows substance and spectacle substitutes for actual accomplishment.